So I missed an episode last week. I apologize. My bad. The episode that was supposed to come out on August 8th, it was missed. It was gone with the wind. I completely dropped the ball on it. I'll admit, when we started Stuck on the Internet, I did a really good job of backlogging a bunch of episodes, and I thought I had more episodes in the backlog. And then last week kind of sucked because there was a hurricane, and it didn't hit us, luckily, very luckily. We were in a part of South Carolina that was not impacted by the hurricane. Low country, they got a lot of rain. I don't know how much the totals finally were down in the low country of South Carolina, but I know they got hit pretty hard. There's a lot of flooding around Charleston. And also, there's definitely some damage in Florida and Georgia. I definitely hope if anybody's listening from any of those areas that you're doing all right and hurricane recovery efforts have gone well. It was also very moist, to say everybody's favorite word. Made it kind of difficult to want to go outside and record an episode of this show after I had already worked a longer shift than usual at work. Because of said hurricane, I just kind of fell through the cracks. I'll admit, it's not me. It happens. We're gonna have accidents. Happy accidents. Now we are doing the most live or the most recently recorded episode of Anecdotal Madness that has ever been done. I'm recording this on the 14th, and it will go out on the 15th. So we are doing a very, very early, or doing a very last minute episode this week to make up for my sins of completely missing an episode last week. So that's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm gonna try and get this edited and out tomorrow. And I thank you all for your loyal listenership. This is also one of the first. I think last episode might have been the first that I recorded after Stuck on the Internet started. Maybe not. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, I thank everybody for actually listening to this. I've been pleasantly surprised looking at the numbers for all of our shows in general. I think all of our shows are doing very well. You guys love Good Morning, Good Night. It's funny to me because that was supposed to be our just throwaway show, and that gets really good views and people really like it. They're really engaged. But I also appreciate people sitting and listening to me ramble for 20 minutes. The fact that there's actually a small growing following behind this is very, very touching, and I appreciate everybody who listens to this and enjoys this podcast. Glad that you guys enjoy it as much as I enjoy making it. I'm going to try to bank up some more episodes. I've been talking about the weather a lot in this show, in the intro for this show. The last couple of episodes, it's a brisk 90 degrees today, and the humidity is lower than it normally is. So, I am out here and I am in the recording mood. So I'm going to make some episodes. I'm going to record some episodes, get another backlog going. That way I don't have to worry about running out of episodes and missing some, especially, less than 10 episodes into my new show. So we'll see how that goes. This is Anecdotal Madness. I think we're on episode 7 now. Episode 7. This is for August 15th, 2024. Promised at the end of last episode I was going to do another music episode. And by God, I'm going to do another music episode. And we're going to talk about music. And we're going to talk about a genre that I've had a very colorful history with, which is the country music genre. I want to go ahead. I want to put this out here as a disclaimer at the start of this episode. I want to say for this specific episode that I'm going to call this episode In Defense of Country Music. And I want to talk about country music and what I think has gone wrong with it, and the new kind of burgeoning scene that's out there now that I think more people should give a chance, because I completely agree that what's on the radio today, if for whatever reason you're still listening to FM radio, what is on FM radio today is not great. It's not good, and I stopped listening to it for a long time because of that. So if you listen to the original music episode, which I think was like 3 or 4 episodes ago now, definitely go back and check that out. I really enjoyed that episode, making that episode, and listening back to it while I was editing it. I talked about how when I started listening to music, or really started getting into music as a younger person, or a lot of the music that I listened to when I was a kid, especially with my mom, was country music. It was the old country music. It was like 50s, 60s, 70s, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, a lot of those old country artists. And as time progressed, I listened to a lot of 90s country as well. Your Tim McGraws and some of the more kind of modern contemporary artists. I guess formerly contemporary. Growing up in the 2000s, back before the advent of music streaming and all that good stuff, I listened to a lot of, I started listening to the radio a good bit, and throughout the 2000s, I really didn't mind a lot of the music. I also really wasn't paying too much attention attention musically as a person. I think when I was in high school, I just kind of started paying more attention to music and just listening to it for more than having background noise, actually trying to listen to and appreciate the music and the art form behind it. And, you know, even to this day, I'm not the most musically inclined person. I'm not one of these people who can sit down and say, oh, they're doing this note and that note, and, you know, this is what this instrument's doing, whatever. And, you know, I'm not quite that level. I don't know if I really want to be to that level. And I talked about that a little bit in the last music episode, how I don't, you know, I try not to overly criticize music and nitpick music. I know what I like, I know what I don't like. But one of the things I noticed is when I started paying more attention to the music and trying to appreciate it a little bit more, it's like I was falling more and more out of love with country music, more and more into love with, you know, rock and roll and metal, and a little bit of punk, mostly rock and metal and stuff like that. We talked about metal in the last episode, or kind of dabbled into it a little bit rather. But I really stopped listening about 10 years ago now, regularly, to a lot of kind of more contemporary artists. I kind of fell out of love with a lot of the older artists I listened to. Still listen to a lot of them from time to time. I've always been a big fan of Alan Jackson. I've seen Alan Jackson, I think, in concert more times than any other artist. I was actually having some memories pop up on my phone the other day from we went and saw his Last Call tour, his final tour last year or the year before. And I've actually got a poster from that tour behind my desk. So, but anyways, I still listen sporadically over the last 10 years, but I'd really say I think a part of this has to do with, you know, I moved out of the country space for a few years and then I came back. And I think since I've come back, I've kind of had a revival of country music in my life. And I'm really glad for it because it's really, again, I kind of feel that same way I did when I got into metal back in high school, of like just feeling the music to my core. I haven't had that in a long time, and I've started listening I want to say it's been about 2 years ago now. I started this journey with a guy called Jackson Dean, and a lot of these artists I'm going to name are going to be really small name artists, or at least very, very hyper specific artists where, you know, they have a kind of I'll say a cult following, for lack of a better way to put it, but a lot of artists that are only very well known in certain circles. So if I say a smaller artist, that's kind of what I'm referring to, because some of these people I could probably say, like one of the artists I'm going to talk about later, I've got tickets to a concert, and I mean, they sold out in one day. So these people have draw, but it's just not mainstream draw. So these are names that you might not have heard of. Anyway, I digress. So I started listening to Jackson Dean, and I really, really appreciated his kind of campy style. I think the first song I heard, I think it's still his most popular song. Yeah, so I started listening to Don't Come Lookin', which is the first song I ever heard of his, and I really, it's a very campy, kind of heavy, almost like country rock song, which I think is a lot of what drew me into his style of music, or him originally was a lot more like Southern rock, and I love Southern rock. Actually, coming to think about it a little bit, even before I got into Jackson Dean, I kind of started getting driven back to the country space. I started listening to a lot of Molly Hatchet, which Molly Hatchet's a wild ride with a bunch of different singers. Great band. Follow the Peacemakers is one of my all-time favorite songs, just in general. I think that's what kind of started drawing me back into the space and helped me appreciate it a little bit more. But anyway, I started listening to Don't Come Lookin'. I think I might have heard it on the radio at some point, because it did play a few times in the contemporary country radio, and just by nature of living in the South, you hear a lot of contemporary country radio, and you know, just hearing a song on modern contemporary country radio that I like really kind of piqued my interest. He's got a couple other songs I definitely recommend. Red Light and Trailer Park, both very, very good songs. A lot of the songs that he writes tend to me to kind of speak more to just like the day-to-day life of living out in the country and what it's like to kind of be a younger person in the country and hanging out, and just it really hit home for me for some reason. A lot of his music, I think a lot of that's just because the way I grew up out in the country. I know after him, the next artist I really started getting into was Cody Jinks, and Cody Jinks, I found him because of the song Loud and Heavy, which was a big song on TikTok a couple of years ago. I started listening to him a little bit more through that song, because it's a very catchy song. It's a very heavy, kind of hard-hitting song, but again, he's got a lot of that old country soul in his songs. He does a really good job of bringing in a lot of kind of more modern instrumentals. He does a really good job of driving that kind of Southern rock feel behind it, while also maintaining that it's really outlaw country is the word I'm looking for. He's got a really great modern outlaw country vibe about him, And I absolutely, he was the one that pushed me. Like Jackson Dean, I really appreciated his music. I went off the rails for Cody Jinks. I loved his music. I listened to all of his albums. I still do to this day. Not as frequently as I did a couple of years ago, but I mean, I absolutely love this dude. And we actually got really lucky. We went and saw him last year in concert. And if you're interested in country music, I highly recommend listening to his music and going to his shows. Just the energy at that show, and the fact that you could really tell his whole, a lot of the stuff that he does that I also appreciate is that he's very big into independence in the music scene, and that really comes through in his concert. And you could tell he's not there for the money. He's there to make people happy. He's there to have a good time. He's there to just to have a great audience and put on a great show. And it was phenomenal. One of the best. I love going to concerts. I've been to a lot of concerts. I think his concert's probably one of the best I've ever been to. Absolutely love Cody Jinks. Some songs of his. This whole episode's just kind of be a. I think this whole episode's just kind of be a Chris's music corner for music recommendations. But I definitely recommend "Loud and Heavy" is probably his most popular song. You're gonna see that out there. I know that one floats out a lot. "Hippies and Cowboys" is also a really good one with that kind of almost old campy country style. Also really recommend. It's actually his top 3 songs on Spotify. I'm looking right now. "Must Be the Whiskey" is probably my favorite song of his, but he's got some other good ones. What was that? It was a song I can't remember the name of. "Hurt You" is a good one. David Leifer's really, he's got a lot of really good songs. I love Cody Jinks. I still do. I haven't listened to him in a while. I need to put him on again. But yeah, dudes, he just put out a new album. I talk so much. Oh, I love this guy. I haven't listened to his new album a whole lot. I've listened to it, but he put Change the Game out a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago at this point, and all the songs on it. Outlaws and Mustangs is probably my favorite song on there. We actually saw that live. He played that one live for us, and it's just I remember that being a really good song live, and it comes through on the recording really well as well. But we've got went from there and went to Cody Jinks. One of the more mainstream guys I see a lot of talk about around is Zach Bryan. I've actually been listening to Zach Bryan a lot this week. I like Zach Bryan. I've got to say, I actually heard yesterday, I saw someone who basically said that Mumford & Sons walked so that Zach Bryan could run. And I don't really disagree with that. I don't. And I think he's got some excellent songs. He's probably gonna be the most popular artist I talk about today. I think that, he's got a couple songs that are nearing 1 billion listens on Spotify. But he's got some really good songs. I can't think of anything. Like, I can talk about Jackson Dean, how I got into him, and Cody Jinks, and how I got into him. Zach Bryan, I think, kind of fits that a little bit mainstream, but his lyrical content's good, his singing voice is good, his instrumentals are good. There's nothing that stands out and draws me in. I just like listening to his music. If you're gonna listen to any of his songs, I would recommend Pink Skies, Heading South. Hey Driver's a good one. Hey Driver is probably my wife's favorite song of his. He's got a lot of really good songs. He just put out an album as well, The Great American Bar Scene, which I didn't mind. I think Pink Skies was my favorite song off of it. It wasn't a bad album by any means, but I have mixed opinions when artists put out albums back to back, because he just released a self-titled album last year, and it was good. I loved his self-titled album. Absolutely love it. And then he dropped The Great American Bar Scene after that. And I think it's an okay album. I don't think there's anything special about it. I like Pink Skies. That's probably one of my favorite songs of his now. But yeah, he's just got I think he's a little bit more contemporary, personally. Definitely still a lot of old school vibes, and you could definitely tell he's rooted in that kind of more classical country scene, but he is just a little bit more contemporary in general is what I'd say. We're going to keep going down this scene here. A lot of these artists have albums out this year, which makes it even more fun to talk about all these people. So now we are going to talk about probably my favorite artist out of all the artists I'm going to talk about. We got 2 more that I'm going to talk about on this episode, then I'm going to wrap things up. I want to talk about Sturgil Simpson. And this man has absolutely captivated me. I've really gotten into this guy this year a lot. Started listening to him last year, but I really just took off with his music this year. I think that beyond shadow of a doubt, this is the artist that solidified my kind of return to this kind of alternative country genre, because this dude's music I think it is broadly appealing to everybody. If you're not going to listen to any of the music I talk about in this episode, please, I am begging you, Sturgil Simpson is the one that you need to listen to, because I think that, on top of the fact, I think he's just an exceptionally talented artist for a number of different reasons. I think he's an insanely talented guitar player. I mean, just absolutely insanely talented, has an exceptionally unique style to playing that guitar. He has a very, very just enchanting, unique voice that's very reminiscent to me of Waylon Jennings. It's a very classical country sounding voice, and he does such a good job across all of his albums. Every single one of his albums has a different sound, which is something I normally don't like in an artist, but the way that he executes all of them, somehow it just works. So I could recommend probably about 10 or 15 songs from Sturgil. He is just, I cannot express enough how talented I believe this man is. My wife and I are going to see him in October. I'm so excited about it. We're both huge fans. We really gotten into him over this last year, and he was the artist I was talking about earlier when I said that when I bought tickets for it, I bought tickets on the pre-sale, and they were sold out within one day. And we've got excellent seats to see him too. I'm very, very excited. But he's got 5 or 6 albums out. I don't think he has had a bad album yet. He is also one of the few artists I would say I recommend don't listen to his This Is playlist. Go through and listen to, or just like, don't cherry pick songs. I definitely recommend going through, start with the oldest album, which is High Top Mountain, and just listen to each album one at a time. Listen to the songs through end to end. He does an exceptionally great job, and this is something I love when artists do. Almost all of his albums, the songs all kind of blend together. So it's not really, here is a collection of 10 songs. It is, here is this kind of musical experience that you're going to go on for the next half hour, 45 minutes, however long. Start here, end here. Everything in the middle is just incredible. I can't think of a single song that this man has released that I don't like. There's some I definitely like more than others, but I will sit down at least every other week and I will put on 1 or 2 of his albums and just listen to them in totality. One of my favorite things in the world to do is just put on, usually Metamodern Sounds and Country Music is probably my favorite album of his. But I'll put that album on and I'll just come out here and sit on the back porch and just relax, drink a glass of whiskey, watch the sun go down. It is absolutely how I find peace in this world. And this dude 100% solidified the fact that I am here for this new alternative country scene. Just phenomenal songs all the way. I recommend, if anybody is looking to get into him, this is the one, like I said, this is the one artist I would recommend. I think that anybody could get into. His album Sound and Fury, especially if you like more modern music, more samples, it's a very unique album in a sense of it's a departure kind of, to me, in my opinion, from the country music scene. It's very much a kind of almost like psychedelic rock, I would argue, album. And I think that he does a really good job of appealing to a lot of broader audiences in that album. It's definitely the most unique. I would recommend that album to anybody looking to get into him. But all of his albums, every one of his albums, especially one of my favorites that he's done is the Ballad of Dude and Juanita. And that album, I will only listen to those songs if I listen to the whole 30-minute album, because it is from beginning to end telling the tale of these two people and their dog, and just this, it's a very campy, almost old Western sounding album. It's something you would expect to almost hear around a campfire in a cowboy movie. It's just such an awesome album. But I would definitely recommend, for anybody who's not really into country music, Sound and Fury is the one I would recommend listening to. Behind that, I can absolutely recommend Metamodern Sounds in Country Music. And if anybody's looking for a just kind of broad song to listen to, just to get into Sturgil Simpson in general, I'm going to recommend off the Sailor's Guide to Earth, the song All Around You. And I said specifically the album. There's another version of that song on one of his other albums that has a more bluegrass rendition. The version on A Sailor's Guide to Earth of All Around You, it's a lot more kind of orchestral. It's got a lot more of a kind of almost like a jazzy feel to it, orchestra jazzy feel. And it's just, in my opinion, it's probably my favorite song of his. It is such a beautiful song. It's just an absolutely incredible song. It's a very emotional song. I cannot recommend it enough. Like I said, just this man as a whole, the world needs to give this man attention. I cannot say enough good things about his music. I am exceptionally excited to go see him in October. So I've got one more band I'm going to talk about, and then I will stop yammering about country music for a little bit. So I'm gonna finish this off on so what I don't really know if they're a country or a southern rock band. I'm gonna call them a southern rock band. I think they are, in my opinion, they are the closest modern thing to Leonard Skinner. That is how I feel when I listen to them, and I'm a big Leonard Skinner fan. I've always been a big fan of the original Leonard Skinner, and I think they very closely capture that same soul in their music, and that's going to be 49 Winchester. We're actually going to see them live here in a few weeks. Like I said, I love live music. I love music. They are a band that I have really only gotten into in the last probably 3 or 4 months. I found them. I've been listening to a lot of the radio for Sturgil Simpson, and they came up a lot on there. Oh, I just remembered another artist I need to talk about. So this isn't going to be the last one. I lied. I'm going to close on a bigger artist than 49 Winchester. I love 49 Winchester though. They're a fantastic band. They are very much, I will put them in the southern rock category over country music, but they are just very much the heart and soul of just backwoods, easy living, good country folk, and a lot of their music kind of reflects that. A lot of it, I find a lot of the music kind of talks about just life in the South and living in the country as someone who's in their kind of late 20s, early 30s. One of their songs on their latest album that just came out a couple weeks ago, "Make It Count." That song definitely hit home, talking about, graduated from high school 10 years ago, trying to figure out what's going on in life, and I got friends I haven't talked to in 10 years, 11 years, stuff like that. Really hits home, I think, for a lot of people, but just their music in general, I think, does a really good job of just capturing the soul of what I love about this genre of music, and the soul of just living in the country and just enjoying life, and the ups and downs of life. I think it does a really good job of capturing that. I'm going to recommend for them, I will recommend, obviously, like I said, I think "Make It Count" is probably my favorite song off their new album. It's probably one of my favorite songs of theirs. In general, as I'm going down this list, I'm seeing more artists pop up that I want to talk about. Maybe I'll do another episode where I'll talk more about some of these other artists, but I'm going to recommend that, and I'm going to recommend the Russell County Line. Russell County Line's it's a very beautiful love song, and I really appreciate that song. I don't know why. It's one of those ones, every time it comes on, I find myself singing along to it, and it's just a really pretty song. All their music in general, I definitely recommend checking them out. So I'm gonna backpedal a little bit. I'm gonna backpedal just a hair. One more time. I said 49 Winchester was gonna be the last artist. There's one more artist that I want to talk about. I'll probably wind up doing another one of these episodes, because as I'm going through this, I'm realizing, like, oh crap, there's a bunch of other artists. But another one that I would definitely recommend for anybody looking into getting into this side of country music, and I feel like just talking about some of the names I've mentioned already that I would be remiss not to talk about, is going to be Tyler Childers. He is another one. He's kind of like Zach Bryan. He is becoming a little bit more mainstream. He's got a couple songs on here that have 500 million views or listens, which, I mean, all these artists have several million listens. I consider more contemporary artists to be people getting a couple 100 million listens on Spotify. All of this metrics is being pulled from Spotify, by the way. But a lot of his music, he's got a lot more traditional, almost borderline bluegrass music, but I think he's also got some of the most easily approachable kind of borderline bluegrass music I could possibly understand people getting into. I think bluegrass is definitely one of those genres that's difficult for people to get into. I think Tyler does a really good job of just blending that enough with some kind of modern sounds and some traditional country sounds to be able to make that very easily approachable for anybody. He has some just excellent, he's been around for a while now. I think he's been around since the early 2000s, but he's got some really just fun albums out there that are super just great. I recommend Country Squire is probably his most approachable album to get into. All of his music really is great. I think it's really great and approachable. Favorite songs of his that I would recommend, off of Country Squire, House Fire is a really good song, really campy. I like campy music, I'm coming to find by this episode. But really good, really campy song. If you want to listen to his live, he's got a live album, live on Red Barn Radio, as one of his early live albums The song Charleston Girl is probably one of me and my wife's favorite songs. It's kind of silly in some places, but it's just something catchy about it that we really enjoy. Just all of really, I mean, just going down his top 5. Feathered Indians, excellent. Lady May is excellent. Nose on the Grindstone is excellent. So I definitely recommend checking him out. Very, very exceptionally unique style young man, very talented young man. All these people are exceptionally talented, and I greatly appreciate all of them for bringing me into this space, this kind of alternative country space. And there's a lot of, like I said, I can think of at least 4 or 5 other artists. I'm probably going to do another episode on this, talking more about some of these other artists, because I think the world needs to hear about them. I want to spread this joy with other people. And I'd just like to say that, you know, not every country artist is the Jason Aldeans of the world, and Blake Shelton and Luke Bryan. Like, not every country artist is like that. They're not all, you know, boots in trucks and taking your girl to the lake on Friday night. You know, these are like really, really deep traditional songs about heartache and hard living and the life. Tyler Childers, a lot of his early songs especially talk about the just what it's like to grow up in rural Kentucky coal country while the coal industry is collapsing, and what it's like trying to escape that. You know, these are songs of heartache. These are songs that have, you know, lyrics behind them that really, really hit home, especially for people that, you know, might have been through this, or people who know people that have been through this kind of stuff. It's just songs with actual substance and deep meaning, which I think is something that the country music industry has been lacking for a long time. I think that's a lot of what kind of drew me out of the country music industry, is basically every song on modern country music radio follows the same formula. And, you know, when I got into more heavy rock and roll and music and metal and stuff like that, you know, it talks more about that kind of stuff. A lot of these songs that I've recommended over the last few weeks, if you look at them, have been songs that deal with heavier topics, that deal with emotion, that deal with heartache, that deal with just navigating life. And a lot of that stuff speaks to me personally, and that's what I look for when I'm listening to music, is stuff that I can identify with, stuff that I like to listen to music that gets your emotions. You know, that's kind of the sound to me of good music, is something that I can listen to the music, I can listen to the instrumental, I can listen to the lyrics, and there's something that's there that grabs a hold of you and just doesn't let go. And all of these artists, all of this music, I think all of these artists have something like that in their rapport. I cannot recommend any of them enough. I recommend all of them equally. I'll put all these artists down in the description. I definitely recommend you check them out. Give them a chance. Give country music a chance. Let me know what you think about these artists and, you know, this side of the country music scene I don't think a lot of people get to see. And I think a lot of people understandably look down on country music because of that. And I think if a lot more of these artists were the ones that people were listening to, it would have an entirely different reputation, because, you know, these are people that are singing about, you know, actually putting emotion into music. So yeah, give it a try. Let me know what you think. I can't wait to edit this. I think this might be the longest episode of Chris's Music Corner. Yeah, I guess this is the longest episode of Chris's Music Corner. No, I think this is going to probably be the longest episode of Anecdotal Madness to date. I had to make up for missing last week's episode, okay? So yeah, anyway, I'm sorry about missing last week's episode. We'll be back next week to talk about more things. I don't know what yet, and I'm going to figure that out in the meantime. Hopefully I'll get this edited tonight and out tomorrow so you all can listen to it with your ears and enjoy the lovely sound of me talking. I know people love it just so much. That's why you're all here. Anyway, this whole episode's been Chris's Music Corner, so I'm not gonna do one in the outro because I've given everybody like 10 songs to listen to. So go do your homework. Tell me what you think about it in the comments section, or tweet me, or whatever social media people use. You know what social media you can follow that I do sometimes check? The Stuck on the Internet social media. Hey, that's where I'm from. Stuck on the Internet. I'm stuck on the internet. I am Jerry Stuck on the Internet. No, you can check us out online at stuckontheinternet.com. It's where all of our podcasts live. You can go to YouTube at Stuck on the Internet. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Stuck on Internet. And of course, we do have a subreddit r/Stuck on the Internet if you want to share your comments there. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining me, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week.